That feeling. The one where you stare blankly at a textbook, each word a blurry, meaningless symbol, even though you know you should understand it. The to-do list stretches out endlessly, a cruel mirage in the desert of your motivation. Your brain feels thick, sluggish, like wading through molasses, and the mere thought of cracking open another book sends a wave of nausea through you. It's not just tiredness. It's a deeper, bone-weary exhaustion that seems to seep into every corner of your being. You're not alone. This is the quiet epidemic of academic burnout, a silent struggle shared by countless students navigating the relentless pressures of higher education. Maybe you recognize the gnawing anxiety that accompanies the approaching deadline, the constant hum of "not enough" echoing in your mind. Perhaps it's the creeping sense of detachment, the feeling that you're going through the motions, churning out assignments without truly engaging with the material. Or maybe it's the physical toll, the persistent headaches, the disrupted sleep, the constant feeling of being on edge. You might find yourself snapping at loved ones, withdrawing from social activities, and generally feeling unlike yourself. This isn't simply a matter of needing more caffeine or a longer nap. It's a sign that your mental and emotional resources are critically depleted. We've all been told to push through, to work harder, to suck it up. But what happens when pushing harder only leads to further depletion? What happens when the very act of studying, the pursuit of knowledge, becomes a source of profound suffering? This isn't about a lack of willpower or inherent laziness. It's about recognizing the limits of our capacity, understanding the delicate balance between effort and well-being, and learning how to cultivate sustainable study habits that nourish, rather than deplete, our mental and emotional reserves. This isn't another lecture on time management or study skills. We're not going to tell you to simply try harder or offer generic platitudes about the importance of perseverance. Instead, we're going to delve into the underlying causes of study-related exhaustion, exploring the psychological and emotional factors that contribute to burnout. We'll examine the unrealistic expectations, the self-critical thoughts, and the unhealthy coping mechanisms that often perpetuate the cycle of stress and exhaustion. We'll explore how to identify your personal triggers, recognize your warning signs, and develop strategies for reclaiming your energy, focus, and passion for learning. This journey isn't about achieving perfect productivity or eliminating stress entirely. It's about cultivating a more compassionate and sustainable relationship with yourself and your studies. It's about learning to listen to your body's signals, honoring your limits, and prioritizing your mental and emotional well-being. It's about transforming the experience of studying from a source of anxiety and dread into an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and genuine intellectual engagement. It's about finding a way to thrive, not just survive, in the demanding world of academia. We're here to help you navigate that path, offering practical tools, insightful perspectives, and unwavering support as you rediscover the joy of learning and reclaim your well-being. Delving deeper, let's consider the subtle ways our thought patterns contribute to academic fatigue. Often, a relentless inner critic takes root, whispering doubts and magnifying imperfections. This mental chatter, frequently fueled by societal pressures and comparison to peers, can create a self-imposed pressure cooker. Now, consider how this applies when you face an exam. Instead of focusing on recalling knowledge, your mental bandwidth is consumed by anxieties about failure, judgment, or inadequacy. The result? Cognitive overload and a rapid depletion of mental energy. A vital, yet frequently overlooked, aspect of this exhaustion stems from a misalignment between our values and our chosen field of study. Reflect on this. Are you genuinely passionate about the subjects you're pursuing, or are you driven primarily by external factors like parental expectations, career prospects, or societal prestige? When our studies lack intrinsic meaning, they become a draining obligation rather than an engaging exploration. This disconnect breeds a sense of apathy and resentment, further contributing to burnout. The joy of learning diminishes, replaced by a monotonous grind. Another crucial layer is the insidious impact of perfectionism. The pursuit of excellence is admirable, but when it morphs into an unrelenting demand for flawlessness, it becomes a recipe for disaster. Perfectionists often set impossibly high standards for themselves, leading to chronic stress, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy. Every assignment becomes a high-stakes performance, and even minor setbacks can trigger feelings of shame and self-doubt. This constant pressure to be perfect not only drains energy but also stifles creativity and genuine learning. Building on this, however, it's important to acknowledge the role of unhealthy coping mechanisms. When faced with academic stress, Many students turn to temporary escapes like excessive social media use, binge-watching television, or relying on stimulants. While these activities may provide fleeting relief, they ultimately exacerbate the problem. They disrupt sleep patterns, impair cognitive function, and create a vicious cycle of dependency. Moreover, they prevent us from addressing the underlying issues that contribute to our exhaustion. Conversely, consider the impact of neglecting our basic needs. Adequate sleep, nutritious food, and regular exercise are not luxuries. They are fundamental requirements for optimal mental and physical functioning. When we consistently deprive ourselves of these essentials, we undermine our ability to cope with stress and maintain focus. Imagine trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach and without proper training. Similarly, expecting our brains to perform at their best when we're sleep-deprived and malnourished is unrealistic and unsustainable. Furthermore, examine the impact of social isolation. While studying often requires periods of solitude, prolonged isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness, detachment, and decreased motivation. Human connection is essential for our well-being, and spending time with supportive friends and family can provide a much-needed emotional boost. Sharing our struggles with others can also help us gain perspective and realize that we're not alone in our experiences. A support network acts as a buffer against stress and a source of encouragement during challenging times. Reflecting on this journey so far, a pattern emerges, revealing that academic exhaustion isn't merely about the sheer volume of work. It's more like a complex ecosystem, where pressures from within and without intertwine, creating a fertile ground for burnout. The relentless pursuit of knowledge, meant to be a source of empowerment, can ironically become a cage of our own making. It seems the very tools we employ to succeed, our ambition, our dedication, our commitment to excellence can, without careful calibration, become instruments of self-sabotage. The weight of expectations, whether self-imposed or projected onto us, acts as a constant gravitational pull, distorting our perception of what's achievable and sustainable. This pressure cooker environment, fueled by a fear of falling short, often leads to a fragmentation of our focus, scattering our energy in a desperate attempt to meet every demand. Like a tree overburdened with fruit, our branches begin to sag, threatening to break under the strain. It's evident that a shift in perspective is needed, a recalibration of our internal compass. We must move away from the notion of academic success as a relentless uphill climb and embrace a more nuanced understanding of our capabilities and limitations. This involves acknowledging the inherent value of rest, reflection, and self-care, not as luxuries to be earned, but as essential components of a sustainable and fulfilling academic journey. Drawing these strands together, we see that the path forward lies not in simply working harder, but in working smarter, and more importantly, working with greater self-awareness and compassion. It's about cultivating a mindset that prioritizes well-being alongside achievement, recognizing that our mental and emotional health are not separate from, but integral to, our academic success. This requires a willingness to challenge ingrained beliefs, to question the narratives that drive us, and to redefine what it truly means to thrive in the face of academic challenges. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, a journey of self-discovery, where we learn to navigate the complexities of academic life with greater resilience, purpose, and joy. It's about transforming the experience of studying from a source of stress and exhaustion into an opportunity for growth, self-expression, and genuine intellectual engagement. As we prepare to conclude, remember that cultivating this sustainable approach is less about finding a quick fix and more about nurturing a long-term commitment to your overall well-being. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider this: our capacity for learning and growth is not limitless, but it is remarkably resilient. By embracing a more holistic approach to academic life, we can unlock our full potential, not by pushing ourselves to the brink, but by nurturing our minds, bodies, and spirits. The ultimate goal is not simply to survive the challenges of academia, but to thrive in the process, emerging stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected to ourselves and the world around us. So, where does this leave us, standing on the precipice of a renewed understanding of our academic selves? It's not about abandoning ambition or lowering the bar. It's about fundamentally altering our relationship with the pursuit of knowledge, recognizing it as a marathon, not a sprint, demanding endurance, strategy, and, above all, self-compassion. The true measure of success isn't solely reflected in grades or accolades, but in the integrity of our journey, the resilience we cultivate, and the well-being we preserve along the way. Imagine a garden, meticulously planned and tended. The seeds of knowledge are sown with care, watered with dedication, and nurtured with patience. But what happens when the gardener becomes consumed by the desire for immediate results, neglecting the soil, depriving the plants of sunlight, and demanding an unsustainable rate of growth? The garden withers, the flowers fade, and the promise of abundance remains unfulfilled. Similarly, our academic pursuits require a delicate balance of effort and rest, of discipline and self-care, of striving and surrendering. The key, then, lies in cultivating a mindful approach to learning, where we are fully present in the moment, engaged with the material, and attuned to our own needs and limitations. This involves setting realistic goals, breaking down overwhelming tasks into manageable steps, and celebrating small victories along the way. It means learning to say no to commitments that drain our energy and to prioritize activities that nourish our minds, bodies, and spirits. It requires a willingness to embrace imperfection, to learn from our mistakes, and to view setbacks as opportunities for growth. Beyond the individual strategies, there's a deeper, more profound shift that needs to occur. It's about dismantling the pervasive cultural narrative that equates busyness with worth, that glorifies sleep deprivation as a badge of honor, and that equates self-sacrifice with success. This requires a collective effort, a conscious decision to prioritize well-being over achievement, to create a more supportive and compassionate academic environment, where students feel empowered to prioritize their mental and emotional health without fear of judgment or reprisal. Ultimately, the journey of academic success is not a solitary one. It's a shared human experience, a collective endeavor where we support and uplift one another, recognizing that we are all navigating the same challenges, facing the same fears, and striving towards the same goals. By fostering a sense of community, by sharing our struggles and celebrating our triumphs, we can create a more resilient and sustainable academic ecosystem, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. The true practice begins now, not in some distant future when the pressure subsides or the workload lightens, but in this very moment, as you close this video and step back into the world of academia. It begins with a conscious breath, a moment of self-compassion, a commitment to prioritizing your well-being alongside your studies. Remember the garden, and tend to it with care, knowing that the seeds you sow today will blossom into a future filled with knowledge, resilience, and a profound sense of fulfillment. Let this be your compass, guiding you towards a more sustainable and meaningful academic journey.